Some people live life on hard mode for absolutely no reason. Not because they're unlucky, not because they're unintelligent, not because the universe has selected them for a personalized suffering package. They just keep making simple things unnecessarily difficult. They try to remember everything. They rely on motivation. They trust their future selves. And somehow, they're surprised when things go wrong. Imagine hiring the world's most unreliable employee, someone who forgets tasks, gets distracted constantly, procrastinates, loses focus, and occasionally decides that watching videos about ancient shipwrecks is more important than paying bills. Most people have already hired that employee. It's their brain. And the weird part is that they trust it with everything. Need to remember something important? I'll remember it. Need to bring something tomorrow? I'll remember it. Need to send that email later? I'll remember it. No, you won't. Your brain has the memory capacity of a browser with 50 tabs open. One random thought enters, and suddenly the original task is gone forever. Which leads us to one of my favorite tricks. Imagine you're leaving the house. Halfway through putting on your shoes, you suddenly remember something important you need to do tonight. Normally you'd think, I'll remember later, which is exactly how things get forgotten. Instead, do something weird. Take an object and put it somewhere it absolutely doesn't belong. Put a slipper on the kitchen counter, put a fork on your couch, put your TV remote in the bathroom. When you come home later, you'll immediately think, what is that doing there? And then you'll remember, because your brain is excellent at noticing things that are wrong. It's terrible at remembering things that are normal. That's actually the pattern you'll notice throughout this video. The easiest way to improve your life is often to stop relying on memory and start relying on your environment. For example, let's say you need to bring something tomorrow morning. Most people place it somewhere safe, which is another way of saying a place I'll never look again. Instead, put it somewhere physically impossible to ignore. Hang it on the front door handle, put it on your driver's seat, tape it to your shoes. Your future self can ignore reminders. Your future self cannot sit on a package. That's the difference. People think productivity is mostly about discipline. It isn't. It's mostly about making good decisions automatic. Think about how ridiculous this is. If you need to remember your passport for tomorrow's flight, would you rather trust your memory? Or would you rather put it directly on top of your car keys? One strategy relies on willpower, the other relies on physics. Physics usually wins. Here's another trick that sounds stupid until you try it. Leave things half-started. Most people believe they should finish everything, but sometimes the best way to make future tasks easier is to deliberately stop halfway. Let's say you want to study tomorrow. Don't close everything neatly. Leave the book open. Leave your notes on the desk. Leave the document open on your laptop. Because tomorrow you're no longer starting, you're continuing. And continuing is dramatically easier. Starting a task is like pushing a car. Most of the effort happens at the beginning. Once it's moving, keeping it moving is much easier. The same thing happens psychologically. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make. They treat their future selves like superheroes. You've probably done this before. I'll wake up early tomorrow. I'll go to the gym after work. I'll study for 3 hours tonight. Future. You sounds incredibly ambitious. Future you is basically Batman. Then tomorrow arrives. Batman is gone, and regular you shows up. Regular you is tired, hungry, distracted. And suddenly the plan collapses. The solution is simple. Stop creating plans that require motivation. Start creating plans that survive without it. Want to go to the gym tomorrow? Lay out your clothes tonight, fill your water bottle, pack your bag, put your shoes next to the door. Every barrier you remove today makes tomorrow easier. People underestimate how much behavior is controlled by tiny amounts of friction. A good example is your phone. Most people think they check their phone because they want to. Often, they check it because it's there. Imagine if every time you wanted Instagram, you had to walk into another room. Usage would drop dramatically. Not because your discipline improved, because the friction increased. Humans are surprisingly lazy, which sounds insulting until you realize it can work in your favor. Make bad habits slightly harder. Make good habits slightly easier. That's one of the closest things you'll ever find to a real-life cheat code. And once you start noticing it, you'll realize something strange. The people who seem organized, disciplined, and productive often aren't relying on stronger willpower. They're just better at designing their environment. They're playing a different game. Instead of fighting their brain every day, they're quietly setting traps for it. Here's another weird observation. Most people spend their lives trying to remember things. Very few people spend time making things impossible to forget. Those are completely different strategies. Imagine you're walking out the door and suddenly remember you need to call someone tonight. You could trust your memory, or you could take your left shoe and put it on the kitchen table. One of those systems has a near 100% success rate. The other depends on a brain that once forgot why it walked into a room. Choose wisely. The more I think about it, the more I realize that life becomes easier when you stop expecting your brain to behave like a computer. Because it isn't one. It's more like an enthusiastic intern. Sometimes brilliant, sometimes helpful, sometimes researching penguins when it was supposed to be filing taxes. Which brings us to another useful trick. Use existing habits as triggers. Let's say you need to take vitamins every day. Most people create a new routine. That's hard. Instead, attach it to an existing one. Put the vitamins next to your toothbrush. Now brushing your teeth becomes the reminder. Your brain no longer has to remember two things, only one. This works for almost everything. Need to stretch more? Do it after brushing your teeth. Need to practice a language? Do it while drinking your morning coffee. Need to write? Do it immediately after breakfast. Successful habits are often just hitchhiking on older habits. Now here's one that sounds almost too simple. When you think of a task that takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Not because it's efficient, but because unfinished tasks multiply. 1 email becomes 3. 3 become 12. 12 become a stressful afternoon. People think procrastination saves effort. Usually it just delays effort and adds guilt. It's like seeing a snowball rolling downhill and deciding to wait until it becomes an avalanche before dealing with it. A terrible strategy. Another trick is creating what I call future gifts. Anytime you can make tomorrow easier, do it. Fill the coffee machine tonight. Lay out tomorrow's clothes. Put your gym bag by the door. Open the document you'll need in the morning. Future. You never expect these gifts. Future you is always pleasantly surprised. It's basically the closest thing you'll get to having a personal assistant. Except the assistant is you, and they're working for free. Now let's talk about one of the most underrated hacks ever. Reducing decisions. Every decision costs mental energy. What should I eat? What should I wear? When should I train? What should I work on first? Individually, these decisions are tiny. Collectively, they become exhausting. Imagine if a football team spent half the match deciding which goal to attack. They'd never score. Many people live like that. They spend more energy deciding than doing. That's why simple defaults are powerful. Have a default breakfast, a default workout time, a default study location, a default first task. Not because variety is bad, because unnecessary decisions are expensive. Here's another one. Make things visible. Humans have a remarkable ability to forget things that aren't directly in front of them. That's why healthy food hidden in a drawer often dies there. Meanwhile, cookies on the counter somehow disappear within hours. Visibility influences behavior far more than people realize. Want to read more? Leave a book on your couch. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle on your desk. Want to practice guitar? Leave it where you can see it. Out of sight is often out of mind. But the opposite is also true. In sight is often in action. And if there is one idea connecting all these tricks, it's this. Stop relying on motivation. Stop relying on memory. Stop relying on future versions of yourself becoming dramatically more responsible. Because they won't. Future you is mostly just current. You wearing different clothes. The real secret is much simpler. Design your environment so the correct action becomes the easiest action. That's it. The slipper on the counter, the package on the driver's seat, the open notebook, the gym bag by the door, the vitamins next to the toothbrush. Individually, these tricks seem almost laughably small, but that's exactly why they work. People are obsessed with huge life changes. Huge life changes are difficult. Tiny changes are sneaky. They slip under the radar. And then, one day you realize something strange. You're forgetting fewer things, procrastinating less, following through more often. Life feels smoother. Not because you became more disciplined, not because you discovered some secret productivity system, but because you stopped fighting your brain and started designing around it. And that might be the most useful life hack of all.